When the weather gets below zero, there's a lot of people out there that just try to survive. My neighbors see me wheeling the grocery cart up and down with 600, 700 sandwiches at a time and making a couple loads to my car every night when I go out about 8 o'clock. And then I get in usually by noon the next day. And the nice thing about winter is the food doesn't spoil. Anybody else need a sandwich? I've been on the street every night for over 12 years, and a night doesn't go by that you don't run into people that really, really need some help. I started teaching school in 1967. I taught 4 years 5th grade in the inner city of Minneapolis, 28 years 6th grade, no fathers in the homes, a lot of poverty. I really got involved in not only after school, evenings, weekends. In 1999, I retired and decided to spend the entire night on the streets dealing with the homeless situation.
I've met a lot of his ex-students that are now in their 40s.
We thought we'd put all the socks and the hats over on the other side.
He's helping generation after generation of people, and he's been a fixture for 45 years in the community. He is a rolling, problem-solving care center on 4 wheels.
Okay, who needs gloves? Who does not have gloves? Thank you very much. Okay, appreciate it.
Nighttime is a big deal for him because that's when all the other resources dry up and the shelters close. He is absolutely committed to helping people every night.
I've been working here for 5 years. He's been coming here bringing sandwiches and coats and blankets.
And I still got sandwiches for tonight on the streets.
He exemplifies for everyone else to follow. This is what we're supposed to do, to help, to give, to share, to love.
Hey, you watch for me, okay? I'll honk a couple times. I had a physical and the doctor told me, you have to stop working at night. He said, are you still living on 3 or 4 hours sleep a day? Yes. You know that's not good for you. I know. You know where I sleep at night? In the front seat. I haven't slept in a bed in 13 years, not one night. This is what I have to do for the rest of my life. Pretty good. How you doing?
All right.
Haven't seen you for a while?
Yeah, it's been a while. Have a wonderful day.
You have a good
Thank
day
you,
yourself.
brother.
The most important thing this program delivers is compassion. That's what it's all about, changing lives for the better. And I'm so lucky because I get to deliver the food.
Allan is a vessel through which the compassion of the community flows. It's a magical kind of spiritual thing.
This is not something that's just in the inner cities and that's it. A lot of people that have always donated to food shelves are now using food shelves. These might be the best sandwiches I've seen in a long time.
It's not going to be good if people just keep saying me, me, me.
We need to see other lives, not just ours. Here, we care about you. Eat.
Last year I passed out 520,000 sandwiches, 2,000 blankets, 2,000 to 3,000 pair of socks to the homeless that had nothing.
It's an awful big world. My kids say, you can't save the world, Mother. And I said, well.
I remember one time someone said something to Mother Teresa, and I'm sure not Mother Teresa, but something to her about, well, you're helping 300 people a day. What's that doing with the thousands? And she just said, well, if it wasn't for those 300, there'd be 300 more.
Some of these guys probably go days without eating. First thing they ask when they come in, did Mr. Law bring some sandwiches tonight?
He's gone to another level to where we got us an example, and he's faithful. You know, it ain't like he ain't gonna be here tomorrow night. You know he's gonna be here.
It just spreads. It's like a good virus.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Go in tonight and get some sleep, and I'll see you tomorrow. People ask me why I do this. I said, if I was homeless and I was hungry and someone brought me a sandwich, I'd say, thank you. I was a teacher in Minneapolis 32 years, taught 5th grade 4 years, 6th grade 28 years. We think back, some of you, anyone from Minneapolis schools? None of you? What school?
Tuttle.
Tuttle? Which, what high school did you go to?
Marshall.
Marshall?
Both of them.
When did you graduate, can I ask?
1961.
61? You older than I thought you were. No, it's good. Marshall, you actually, about 10 years after that, won a state title, basketball title. And they won it with one of the guys in my program, Ronnie Henderson. They call him Bull. He was supposed to go to North High. Tony Queen will never forgive me. I tell Tony, no, he's not going to North. He'd get in trouble all the time. He's going to Marshall U, and they won the state basketball championship. Ronnie Bull, Ronnie Henderson, good guy. So I was a teacher. Kind of strange. Not only did I teach, teachers thought I was crazy. Because they'd go home, and I'd stay there. And I was at Ann Watton for 10 years, Willard, taught on the south side for a few years after one of the schools on the north side closed down. Had this program from day one and paid for the program myself. Paid for it for 29 years, which was really stupid because I couldn't even write anything off my taxes because we were not a nonprofit organization. I found some pictures. Yes, group of 40. Yes, they were all in one van. There's the van they were in. That's right off Plymouth Avenue on the north side. Kids, there's no fathers ever. A lot of times there's no mothers with nothing, and yet never had a problem. Never had a problem with the kid, ever. Including now, it's kind of funny because now most of the young people I work with are from Chicago, and no, they're going to behave. It's as simple as that. I remember one kid when I used to go to the Capri Theater, North Minneapolis. It's still there now. They fixed it up now on Logan and Broadway, and I would take 10 carloads on Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. 10 carloads, so there'd be 270, 280 kids. And I just stopped in the projects, no parent permission, they just climb in, whatever. And then this one little guy, about 12, 13, said, Mr. Law, he said, what happens if I mess up? Because if you drop me off and you're not here to make sure I don't, mess up, what if I get in trouble? It's the first time he'd ever been with me. I looked at him and I said, well, the next time you go with me, you'll have a mustache, he was about 12, and 3 grandkids. So he started figuring, that's going to be a long time. I said, you got that right. There's the van I've got now that's 14 years old, only 38 in that, including some 17, 18, 19-year-olds. And so this has been going for years. Parents' lake cabin, my brother's lake cabin now in Annandale. And I put only about 25 in there, and it was within the limits. Made them wear a life vest. They said, why? I said, because I can't swim. If you fall in the water, I told them parts of Lake Sylvia is 200 feet deep. I said, you think I'm going to jump in to save you? Yes. And I said, what if I don't come up? And then one of the kids, yeah. Well, I don't have a dad, and my mom's drinking all the time. So, in other words, whatever. So they wear a life vest. And yes, when I drove the kids to Lake Sylvia, especially my groups from Chicago, whatever, kids that have never experienced, never been in a boat. Yes, it's true. I have a real strange sense of humor, and I start talking on the way out there about Jaws. And within minutes, I'd get questions like, Mr. Law, they got sharks out there? And instead of me saying no, I said, let me tell you this. If you see remember that movie? If you see a shark, remember he was eating 3 or 4 of you. These kids were afraid to get out of the van. And then I said, I'm walking there and I'm saying, I hope there's no bears around. I never told them there were bears around, but I said, are there bears? I said, I've never seen one, but I hope no bear. So they were hanging with me, whatever. Anyway, so this was a program. I woke up in 1969, 1996, my 29th year teaching, and I said, I've got to change something. So I looked in the yellow pages, found Dorsey Whitney, an attorney, went down and talked to Claire Top, who's still there, and incorporated the program, incorporated and became a tax-exempt 501c3 with no salaries. No deferred compensation, no expense account. It's in the bylaws. Every penny goes to the program. So when I hear the talk a month ago that the National Football League is a nonprofit, which it is, I'm going, oh yeah, like there really need to be a 501c3 with the money they got behind that organization. So we're different as far as that's concerned. When I retired from teaching in 1999, I decided then to spend every night on the streets with homeless. I'd been feeding people since 1967, but we're talking every night on the streets. And I had to break my promise twice. There's a picture in there of me at the Supreme Court in I think it was 2000. Received some awards that I didn't really want and was sent to Washington for 2 days. I was at the Supreme Court of the United States for the Jackie Kennedy Onassis Gold Medallion and the National Jefferson Award. The local one is Care 11, and then the national is the National Award. And no one in Minnesota ever been to whatever, one big deal. So I went out there for 2 days, and came back, and then I had prostate cancer surgery in March of 2013, which means, basically meant I had to find people to deliver food to the different places. Last year I delivered 720,000 sandwiches. I don't have a cell phone. I mean, I've got a cell phone. I don't have an iPhone. I get 200 and some phone calls a day. Whoever this is, please call me back in a half an hour. I'm talking to a group. Thank you. And I have fun though sometimes. The phone I had last week was $18. This was $60, and I kept going like this, like it's an iPhone, saying, "Oh, Mr. Lawson." And then a few weeks ago, I started getting phone calls. Mr. Law, you were on YouTube. You had 530,000 hits in 3 days. And all I said was, by the way, I don't even know how to have a computer. And I know what YouTube is, but I thought it was you with a 2. And all I said was, I hope no one got hurt. That's a lot of hits. No, it's not that kind of hits. And then they tell me there's a trailer, a documentary that I was in. And I said, well, I tell you, I don't have a trailer hitch, and I live in an apartment, so I don't think I'm going to be able to store the trailer anyplace. Not that kind of trailer. By the way, I live in Edina. My mother lost her eyesight and hearing in an apartment. She had asked me a few years ago if I'd moved down the hall into a vacant apartment, and she passed at 94. She and my dad were married 71 years. He's 98 in 3 days, living in his own apartment there. So it's strange for me to live in Edina. Believe me, especially when they call me the Edina Sandwich Man. I've never slept there for a night. I sleep in a van 1 or 2 hours a day. 7 months ago, I started going to 13 supermarkets at night. The president of Supermarket, Jack from Texas, heard about my program, which was kind of a coincidence because when he first called, I told him I knew more about Supermarket than he did because my dad was with the company when it started. He wasn't the owner, but he was personnel director, then vice president until Ashland Oil bought him out. So I told him that he was making mistakes and just throwing food away. So I go through and try to find sandwiches that are not outdated. And some nights it works and some it doesn't, but it's more food for people on the streets. As I mentioned, the one video said 2 years ago it was 520,000. This past year, 720,000 sandwiches. This year will be 1 million sandwiches. I run the program entirely by myself, except for Steve. Who talked to Steve? Email. Someone. I paid, probably Steve. I paid Steve minimum wage to do the emails and text messages, and I told him, no, I'm trying to pay him out of my pension, and it's not going to work. So the emails may disappear, and I'm back where I was before. It's a big calendar in the front seat, and I'll just keep track of whatever. Last year there were 805 different groups making sandwiches for me, including 400 churches. Cornerstone Church, not too far from here, just made, I don't know, a couple thousand sandwiches last week, and actually showed the documentary. You missed it. Someone had asked me to be in a documentary called The Starfish Throwers, and I've been rejecting people for decades, and he finally, after many years, convinced me. 2 of the people are in the film, and I thought it was well done. But so it's a strange life. I'm out at 8 o'clock at night. I spend the entire night on the street, dealing with everything from gang issues on. I bring food, Salvation Army Harbor Light, 1010 curry. I shouldn't say this, but I brought 210,000 sandwiches to one building last year. They don't feed the people one meal. Breakfast only Sunday mornings. Stay for church, you get lunch. The other 6 days, you're kicked out at 6 in the morning, and that's the way it is. I bring sandwiches to 350 men there. I still like them, but they should be feeding people. And also 100 ladies who sleep 90 to 100 on the 3rd floor, on the floor. Most of the men sleep, they all sleep in 2 rooms. Most of them sleep in the chapel on like wrestling mats. Catholic Charities, a few blocks away, higher ground. The lady from Catholic Charities told me they had breakfast. I says, I've been in there almost every day for 15 years. I've never smelled bacon and eggs yet. I bring the food for morning. Sandwiches. So if the men if they missed that one meal at night, they can grab a sandwich during the night, and then when they leave in the morning, they can take a couple sandwiches with them. And sharing and caring, you've heard of that? And it's wonderful. And if Mary Jo walked in here right now, I say, Mary, how are you? And she knows the next question. When are you going to start staying open at night so homeless people can stay there? Instead of one building called Mary's Place, which is wonderful, but it's for families. If any of us are homeless, we can't stay sharing and caring at night if we're not part of a family. So you hit 3 buildings, and one's used. Doesn't make sense. And 2 years ago, I ran into Mary Jo at Sharon and Caring. I do bring things down there for the young people. And she said, Allan Law, I bet you're down here bringing more things down here. And I'd met her 2-3 times before, but we never revisited. She said, do you have a few minutes to visit? I said, sure. And the first thing she told me was, in a good way, you're the craziest person I've ever heard of or met in my life, and what you do I wouldn't do for a day. I wouldn't come in this neighborhood at night, even riding with my husband Dick. And told me she had 3 buildings and asked me how many buildings I had. I said, an apartment. She's a great fundraiser. That's not a knock. She said, I've got 200 people on the phone morning till night to get contributions. How many do you have? I knew I forgot something. I don't have any. And then she said, when you go out and speak, how often do you ask for money? Because I'll wait till they get their checkbook, or I'll send them the card to get their checkbook. And again, I'm not knocking this. This is the way she does it. That's fine. And I said, I knew I forgot something else. I never ask for money. And I don't. I tell people what we do. And I am a Christian, although it's not a religious organization. And I truly believe the Lord is going to provide. It's as simple as that. And so that's basically the program. This year will be 7,000 pair of socks. I rent 3 storage rooms at Public Storage. Just wrote the check today, $1,117. Big storage rooms, Public Storage. And the only thing is we have too many sandwiches right now. I tried to tell people, Pastor called yesterday, I got good news for you. I had never met him before. Shannon asked him, we're making sandwiches. And I'm going, no, we have too many, because people think that that's what the whole thing is. Bus tokens are the most expensive thing. As I mentioned, $32,000 last year. It'll be over $70,000 this year. I buy a bus token for 87.5 cents. And when I see you stranded on the streets, now you can ride a bus for 3 or 4 hours. And keep you safe and warm. And usually they'll let you stay an extra hour or 2 because it's not that busy at night. And so, and the most important thing about my program is not just feeding someone, but it's changing lives. And to change a life, I believe you have to be out on the streets. And I know when Jesse did the film, he said the thing that shocked him was, he says no one talked about the sandwiches initially. It was always like, yeah, I'm in the law, and he was, I was out using drugs or whatever, and he got out of his car and kind of got after me in a respectful way and said, if you are happy with this lifestyle, fine, but if you want to change it, you're going to have to make some changes in your own life. And so basically the one thing that's kind of the surprises most people is that I'm not liberal. I'm conservative. I think everyone should work. When I'm 8 years old, South Minneapolis, I told my dad I want a bike. He says, you better go knock on some doors. I'm not buying you a bike. By the way, that's the same school I went to before we moved out of Minneapolis. A couple years in Edina, a couple years in Richfield. Northrop School. I started school when I was 4. I told some little groups of little kids yesterday when I spoke that I got in trouble when I was either 5 or 6 in first grade. I copied someone's paper. And I remember that. I can't remember if I put my glaucoma drops in this morning, 2 hours after, but I remember that. Miss Hurley, she called me up and said, Allan, did you copy someone's paper? Yes. Do you know how I know? How? Yeah, copied her name too. So I knew at that time that I wasn't the sharpest guy around. I better choose a different profession. I mentioned that to a group the other day, a little guy about 7 said, that was sure dumb. Yes. So it's a strange life, and I'll go out tonight. I have a tendency, which is not safe, to fall asleep sometimes at stoplights, but I'm not going to run into anybody. I'll pull over to the side and call someone and say, I've got 45 minutes to sleep, wake me up. I know it's stupid, but I do have to cut back maybe to 18 hours a day, and I wish I was doing 12. I do not love doing this, but I have this compassion. If I tried to sleep at my apartment, things would be happening on the streets. Seriously, when people ask me the other day, what am I reading right now? And I said, I read a little bit of the sports section last week, but I don't know what happened to it. I haven't read a book since college, and yet teaching, we had the highest test scores in the Twin Cities, and all my kids were African American, 95, and they couldn't figure it out. You don't need recess. You don't know anything. You can't read. I'll bet you can start reading now. Yes, you're going to work. And being that I was in the community at night, I had complete support from the parents, from the mom. There's no dad's mom. Complete support. So in that sense, it's very gratifying. And if I didn't see changes in those people's lives, I wouldn't continue working 18, 20 hours a day. My older brother is in Florida. He's a year older. Works at Baird, the brokerage house. And he goes down there about every month for a week or two. Tough life. And so I told a friend of his a couple weeks ago that I'm a little trip of my own next week. I'm going south. I'm going out to Burnsville to speak at a church. Going south. And then another couple that I had run into talking about their cruises. So I told them that I'm hoping for a cruise this coming summer if they start cruises on Lake Calhoun for an hour. But other than that, no. No vacations, I don't take any days off, and I don't complain. I've never complained because I don't have to do it. But as long as I see lives being changed and got arthritis real bad, don't wear a coat at night. When it gets real cold, I wear 2 of these, my $4, and a turtleneck. No gloves, no hat. And I'm in a lot of pain walking, but I'm okay. Any questions? Gotta be a couple questions here. Real quick, what high school did you go to?
High school,
Yes.
Jordan, Minnesota.
Jordan? I've been out in that community.
Yeah.
A lot of wonderful people out in that
I
area.
shot a guy there yesterday.
Pardon? No, I saw that. I saw that in the paper, but a lot of, Chanhassen, all these places. High school?
Plymouth, Armstrong.
Plymouth Armstrong? I was at the Plymouth Rotary 2 days ago.
Really?
Washburn.
Washburn. What junior high?
Ramsey.
Which grade school?
John Burroughs.
Burroughs, okay. When did you graduate?
57.
Dang, you look a lot younger than that.
I grew up in Seattle.
Seattle? Well, when I was at Minneapolis Academy, we went to the Seattle World's Fair.
There you go. 62.
Yeah, I was supposed to be in the band. I carried a baritone because I had braces of a trumpet. I knew no more about playing anything. And when I went to the academy, it was the tuition was $360. Now it's $17,000. And I went there and my dad said, I'm breaking my rule now, but I'm going to pay half your tuition. Because from the time I was young, paper routes, everything, 11, 12, working at Supermarket when I was 15, 2 college degrees, I went to 1 party. So it's always work. What high school?
Wisconsin.
Where in Wisconsin?
Armstrong.
And I'm mad about that Super Bowl too. No excuse for that. I went to River Falls for 2 years, so I'm a little bit.
I'm from Iowa.
What part?
Ames.
Okay. All I know is there. My cousins grew up in Spirit Lake up in the corner, Lake Okoboji. We can be thankful, the Gophers, for Iowa, Wisconsin, and now Nebraska, because we get sellouts when they come in town where we wouldn't otherwise. Anoka. There's a church there, Lutheran church. Make a lot of sandwiches once a year. I'm trying to remember the name. Big church. What high school, sir?
New Effington, South Dakota.
Pardon?
New Effington, South Dakota.
Okay. South Dakota. What do I know about South Dakota?
Sorry.
In the late 60s and 70s and early 80s, I would take 23 kids. I don't know why I was always 23, in a 6-passenger Ford station wagon. Back then it was all black kids, except I kind of integrated within a couple years and had one Hispanic, Rudy Rodriguez, whose uncle fought Sugar Ray Leonard. Anyway, and we go through the Black Hills, Bear Country, go through where my parents were born in North Dakota, and stay at the Star Motel. And I remember Bear Country, the bear ripped off part of my station wagon. It wasn't really wood, the wood inside was metal, but I remember the trips that we, trying to convince people that I'd have to hide so they wouldn't see that I've got 23 kids and there's 1 adult. To rent me a room for the night? And I remember I got caught a couple times because one looked out and says, those are all colored kids. And I said, I guess you're right, but so it was kind of different back then. And one was humorous though. In North Dakota, we stopped in Fargo. I told the people in the motel, I said, these kids have never been in a motel. And I said, we're probably going to stay just driving around. I said, if I don't come back or call you, we're going to use the room for that night. So when we got back about 1 in the morning, the kids always saying, Mr. Law, can I get the key? So they could get the beds. Fine. The rest sleep in blankets or whatever. And I said, okay, but don't make a lot of noise. One of them came back and said, Mr. Law, you better hurry up. There's an old white man in there in bed with his wife, and he can't talk, he's just shaking. And can you imagine, late 60s, early 70s, and you're in bed, and all of a sudden, you hear someone walk in, and you see 15 black kids. Not a racial thing, just kind of a, well, they could have been anyone. It was kind of different. But and where are you from, sir? What high school? North? What's junior high?
Lincoln.
Okay. I know who your shop teacher was. Mr. Nelson? Okay, because he was there 35 years. He was there. Oh no, he just passed at 90. But remember John Hay next to it? I was supposed to teach at John Hay in 1969, and that's where Prince went to 6th grade. But they had racial problems at Willard, so I went to Willard, and I remember after 2 years at Field over South, walked into Willard, 38 kids in my class, this was 1969. Girl walked in with her friends and said, I'm tougher than my sister, and she bit a girl's lip off in this room last year. I didn't say anything, I'm different anyway, so started the class, I walked by and I said, that was last year, this year the only thing you're gonna be a bite this year, what you get for lunch. Now I had not seen her since she graduated from 6th grade, she had moved. And a few months ago I'm over north, and some kids said, there goes Mr. Law. And she looked at me and said, Mr. Law, I bet you don't remember me. I said, Mary Kennedy, you look good for 57, or have you turned 58? And she was so perfect. It's unbelievable. Kid, unbelievable. How about you, sir?
Armstrong.
Armstrong, Plymouth Armstrong.
Texas.
Where in Texas?
Marshall. 2 hours east of Dallas.
You're not a Dallas fan.
Oh.
Let's say this, the one that was really most valuable was what, Mike Lynn, who's a knucklehead that traded 17 draft choices for a Herschel Walker. Herschel ran out of his shoes one game and that was it, and that's how they got Aikman and all their, you know. I tell you, he should have gotten a Super Bowl ring before any of the Cowboys did. How about you, ma'am?
St. Peter.
St. Peter? Beautiful down there. And I want to remind you, you have your 7-year high school reunion coming up in the spring. 7 or 8. How about you, sir? Robbinsdale? Hopkins? I was in Hopkins the other day. It used to be the high school. Now it's like an after-school thing. Was it elementary before you? Yes, sir.
Patrick Henry.
Good people over north. Where'd you live?
39th and Fremont.
Back in those days, it was Lily White, and now it's the worst area. In other words, the whole area, the bad name, it used to be Plymouth Avenue, and now it's all moved, which is sad. Which is so sad. North High School, all those schools are really good schools. North was the best high school in the state for a long time.
Racine, Wisconsin.
Okay? Racine has quite a few African American kids.
Yeah,
They go from Chicago there, because I've had some that have gone from Chicago to there to up here.
Robbinsdale.
Okay? Pardon? North Dakota. Where in North Dakota? Grafton? My dad would know all about North Dakota. That's how I learned to drive when I was 10 and 11. My grandparents' farm in Pingree between Jamestown and Carrington. And I'd haul the grain. I'm 10 years old. I'm hauling the grain from the combine to the granary right on the land right there. And my uncle, you start spinning those tires, and he'd say, as soon as he leaves, he takes the long way back to the field, about 8 miles. I'm driving, he says, I see nothing but dirt. But North Dakota, good people.
McKinley High, East Center, Minnesota.
The center? Okay, I've never been there, but I'm sure it's beautiful.
Edina.
Edina? Well, then you're kind of a cake eater. I shouldn't talk now that. Where'd you go to elementary school?
I went to Countryside.
Countryside?
Yep.
Okay. I was in Edina not too long ago, I think. I don't know if I mentioned that. My memory is real bad. And I assisted them making some sandwiches, like 6th graders, 5th graders. I was in Countryside a week and a half. They made blankets for me. And I saw some moms in them going, looks like seniors in high school. One of the kids looked at me and said, Senior, that's my mom. She looks like she's 50, but she's really only 34. Maybe the kid's in a little trouble. You know, I was in the Edina High School girls basketball team. They made sandwiches a few weeks ago, and the coach told me that it's either 20 or 25% of the Edina students now are on free or reduced lunch. This would have been 0 10 years ago. So, I mean, there's poverty all over. What school?
Marshall.
Marshall? What? Pardon?
Iowa.
We're in Iowa.
Boone.
Boone?
West of Ames.
Okay.
Robbinsdale Cooper.
Robbinsdale Cooper.
Yes, sir.
So, but I don't know, are there any questions about this crazy program? Yes?
I just have one question. Where do you determine the most difficult areas to address with respect to your kindness and handing out socks and stuff within the metro area? In Minneapolis primarily.
Well, for one thing, I will say, I've never had a problem. There's so much appreciation.
Yeah.
I mean, really appreciate. But I get after people when I think they should be working. And the problem is, I'll give bus tokens to people and encourage them to go work, day labor. One man not too long, 10 days, and he was hired for half a day. And a lot of Vietnam vets, a lot of people older than anyone in this room, that are living. Serious, that are living.
You gotta be pretty old, boy.
You're 69? Well,
89.
No,
89.
You're doing well. There's a couple of them that I've met that were in their early 90s, and they're living. I just said to myself, this is wrong. And I'm not going to get into the political thing like I did at a gas station a while ago, but to me it's pretty sad when you go to a Social Security office and you sit there like I did for an hour with an American vet from Vietnam. And almost everyone's speaking another language. And you see some pulling up with Lexus and whatever, and from some countries that not only don't like us, but they hate us. And our government said, we're going to give them this, we're going to give them houses, we're going to give them all the job training. Something's wrong, majorly wrong. And I've had friends that have come back, people that I've met from Afghanistan and Iraq, they'll come back and their best buddy was shot right next to them. And see, we couldn't fire the enemy until we got permission. And I said, I'm thinking back to World War II. Can you imagine some of the people back then saying, well, we'll have to check and see who it is firing at you. No. But so the world is crazy. And I got in with a man in another city. I stopped for some gas and asked what I do and so forth. And he's trying to blame the United States for everything. And he's from another country in the Middle East. And I said, but I asked him questions. He couldn't answer these questions. So this America's so bad. Why are you here? You got a gas station over in South Minneapolis. You wouldn't have it in your own country. And you're driving a BMW. So he didn't know what to say. And I asked him all these kind of questions. But it's our fault. It's our fault. One group hates another. No, I don't want to hear about it. But which is sad that something is going to continue with problems here. But and so we hope. I don't ask for money. We're hoping sometime bus tokens, if anyone has any interest, socks. We have enough sandwiches, and if you belong to a church and want to get involved in some way, that's fine. As I said, it's not a religious organization, but I am a Christian. I sure wouldn't be doing this. Yes?
So what's the purpose of collecting socks, or why did you decide to collect socks?
I don't know, one homeless person has more than one pair of socks. Some have been wearing those socks for 3-4 months. So I pass out socks. And one place I went and they gave me some of these socks had holes like you wouldn't believe. And so, no, I buy socks. And so socks, you wouldn't believe, man, it's the same thing. I give them a token. You'd think I just gave them a limo ride for the night just to keep them safe. And I mean, some people in walkers and the whole thing. And so socks is just something that you can always use.
So you've said the sandwiches, you have a lot of them.
Right now we have enough sandwiches.
So what's the biggest?
Bus tokens and socks. Right now. And I provide, the thing that's kind of shocking is that I thought about this the other day. I said, here I'm providing all these things to these other agencies. I'm bringing socks down to people of Salvation Army. And I'm not saying they don't pass them out, but I'm telling you, these agencies they're good, but it's like I always tell them, you're good, but you should be a lot better because you got money. I don't want to hear about it. And when they used to ring the bell at Cub, I remember sometimes I stopped by and said, yeah, they should have 2 bells ringing. One of them should be from me. I'm the one that brings the food. 210,000 sandwiches. Sandwiches worth 50 cents, 50, 60 cents each. That's $130,000, $140,000 in sandwiches. This year it's 500,000 sandwiches because I'm bringing 500 sandwiches a day to West 7th in St. Paul and Payne Avenue in St. Paul, about 300 a day. So it'll be over 500,000 sandwiches when I tally it up. Yes?
You primarily get those sandwiches for people in the also places where the homeless go, like the churches?
Well, no, any place that needs sandwiches. And I also, when I go out and speak to a group, I had some servicemen make sandwiches in Fargo and drive them down here. And I always encourage people, I said, there's poverty all over. If you live in Chanhassen, take care of the people in Chanhassen first. Take care of your families first. That's what's important. And some people talk about Minneapolis poor. No, there's wealthy people too. In fact, I had kind of a real surprise a couple years ago. These brochures are printed by Print Solutions in, let's see, they got north and south. What is it? The other side of high school. They have a north and a south. My short-term memory is crazy. Out on the other side by Shakopee. Anyway, Prior Lake. No, not Prior Lake. That was anyway. And they told me a year and a half ago. They said, 2 years ago. They said you can actually buy a list of wealthy people. I didn't know this. I'm not the smartest guy around. So I spent $550 and bought 8,700 names and addresses of people that had incomes between $300,000 and $2.5 million. So I'm sure some of you here probably remember those letters. Anyway, how many do you think sent a donation out of 8,700? And there were like 40 Daytons on the list. 7. And I tell people, if you want to check in a program, any organization you give money to, call the Attorney General's office. Ask for the charity division. You don't have to give your name, and they'll tell you, because we have reports that have to be filed. CPA has been doing ours every year. And as I said, there's some organizations, and there are a lot of wonderful organizations, there are. And there's good things that Salvation Army and the rest of them do too. I just give it away. When a year ago they said they didn't have any money, I was out of sandwiches, and so people ate 350 White Castles and 300 and some McDonald's that night. And then I hustled up some the next day. Yes?
Just to that, the McDonald's, White Castles, do you ever find yourself, I know you said you have plenty of sandwiches, do you ever find yourself in a night, I need sandwiches?
No, not now. Because I've got 17 freezers, and I've got the freezer space in St. Paul and Vandalia, and also out in Newport. So I'm thankful. And I don't complain. And although the weather was cold, I remember one day last year, wind chill was 47 below, and I had even a couple of board members call and say, now you're not, because I wasn't feeling too good, and I says, you're not going out tonight. And I said, nope. I says, you're not going out? No, I'm not. Not till I find my other shoe. So, and if it's too cold, I put a turtleneck on. And if I'm sick, I'll wear a turtleneck, cover my whole face. And other than that, every night, every day, and I get blessings from this. I get the privilege to help people. And so it keeps me going. Every day it seems like running somebody where somebody let me stop a car or get off a bus and come over, give me a hug and say, that's Mr. Law, that's the man that helped, helped our family and helped us for, while we're really struggling. Now we have our own apartment. I'm working 2 part-time jobs. My kids, my kids have are doing well in school. Life is great. And that's what it's about, changing lives for the better. And trying to get people off. My goal every year is 450 people off the streets. If you're able to get off, I want you off, which means are you smoking weed right now and hanging with the same group? And I'm not afraid to get after you. And I'm not afraid to get after the gang thing, where the cops think I'm crazy. We won't go in this area with 2 squads. Without 2 squads tonight, and you're out here, out of your van like an idiot, trying to solve some problems, but then I get the feedback, and I'm not connected in any way. The feedback back saying things are a lot better and within families, whatever, because it's usually families and whatever. So it's a crazy life, but so yes.
Going downtown, you have these people standing out with signs.
Give them a banana or something. I wouldn't give anything beyond, because there's some of them now, which is sad. They got a car, the cell phone, and you don't know what's going on. And some of them downtown carry gas cans. One day, a guy had a gas can. He didn't know who I was, and he says, "Yeah, I'm going to work." I says, "Where do you work?" And he says, "I work in Duluth." Okay? And he says, "And then I work in the afternoon too. Where do you work then?" Roch something. He says, "I forget the name of." So you mean Duluth? Yes. I says, "Well, how long does it take you to get to Duluth?" And he says, about a half an hour. He says, and I said, what kind of plane are you flying in? Then I explained, or if I see someone and I'll sleep an hour downtown and maybe a third of the time someone will knock on my window. And the ones that I don't know, they'll say, I need $20 to say, well, you don't need anything to stay any place. They're not going to charge you a Salvation Army. You're going to sleep on the floor, fine, but you're going to get something to eat in the morning. So,
are those guys on their own, or do they with an organization that drop them off? And,
both. There are some too that'll have a car and drop some people off, and some people caught up, and the media caught up because one guy they followed and he was collecting a few $100s a night, paying no tax and whatever. And I've had people. One man came up to me one day and it looked like he needed something to eat. I gave him a couple dollars about a year ago. And he says, "No, I want 3." And I says, and he didn't ask me. I says, "No, that's all I'm going to give you is 2." And then he says, "No, I want 3." So I took the 2 out and put it in my pocket. He said, "What are you doing?" I says, "You wanted 3, you ain't getting nothing from me." And that's a fact. And so you find some, but very seldom. Most of the people are so appreciative. Believe me. And the kids, I've never had I used to leave money in the van. We have another van. It's a 15-passenger, 14 years old van. The blue one that was in here. And I would leave money in different parts of the van. Like $1, a couple dollars. And not one kid in 47 years has ever kept any money. Not one. And the homeless downtown, no. They're not going to steal. I don't know, that's why they better lock up. Everybody's going to steal. And if somebody does, I feel sorry for him because 10 others will find out about it. He's got a long night ahead of him. So,
well, Alan, we're going to present you with a bunch of socks here.
Fantastic.
So we'll keep them all together. We're also going to give you have $80 cash.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Bus tokens.
Now, I will be honest with you. When I came in and my heart did speed up when I heard, what was it, 48,000? I was going to get on the phone with my board.
Check that hearing aid. That's wrong. Yeah.
I was going to say, I'm coming out here more often. The real wealthy is not Edina or Eden Prairie. I know where it's at now. It's it's out here. Yeah. Thank you so much.
So yeah.
All this will go on the streets. Everything. Thank you so much.